I bet you thought I was lying when I said it could get much worse and we haven't seen anything yet. Well, how do you feel about that now, right? I mean, today has been even just over the past probably couple hours, we've seen a pretty aggressive move to the downside. We're going to be taking a look at all of that today. Hopefully, you're not feeling too freaked out about it. If you are, maybe assess why that might be. We're going to talk about that as well. But overall, obviously, a very, very rough day in the crypto market so far. We've got a ton to talk about today, so I'm not going to waste any more time. We're going to jump right on in. We're going to start taking a look at the crypto bubbles. I guess before we do that, welcome back to the channel. If this is the first time that you're hearing from me, I wish it was under better circumstances, but as you can see here, very, very, very red day on the market. This is all just in one day. We can see here anywhere between kind of 10 to 20% kind of being the market average here. We're seeing things like Solana down 14%. We're seeing Ethereum down 12%. We're seeing Bitcoin's over here down 6%. Jasmy's one we talk about on the channel a lot, down 16. I mean, ICP 10, Virtuals 11, ADA 10. I mean, it's pretty rough out there. So, overall, we're going to talk about, kind of what does this mean? I mean, we're seeing a lot of, I would say, potentially worrying signs within the crypto market. I personally still have my convictions relatively unchanged for a couple simple reasons that we will go over here in this video. But what we are seeing, I would say, is the first very real signs that this market could be over. Now, again, I'm going to go over why I don't actually believe that that's going to happen, but we need to face kind of the reality, right? And look at this objectively when we see all of this stuff kind of right in front of us. Obviously, altcoins are getting absolutely crushed. Things looking pretty rough here. If we look at liquidations, we can see $1.34 billion wrecked in the past 24 hours, a billion of that almost in the past 12 hours. So things looking really pretty grim. We can see almost all of it is coming out of longs. It's been a really strong move to the downside. If we do look at the past 24 hours, we can see kind of 80 to 90% all coming off of longs here on the exchanges. So this is looking a little rough. I don't think that this is necessarily the end of the world, but I mean, $1.3 billion in 24 hours, that is a very substantial amount of money liquidated. And we can also see 24-hour volume is 318 billion. So lots of volume happening here within the past 24 hours. And it's been primarily due to, I think, liquidations, forced sell-offs, maybe even just panic sell-offs, a lot of that type of stuff happening as well. If we do look at the liquidation map, we can see there's almost nothing to the downside here. There's not much further down to go in terms of liquidity to the downside. If we do look, we can see about $5.6 billion of liquidity to the upside. We can see shorts are really, really piling in. Again, this is just on the one day. When we looked at this a couple of days ago, this was at like $1.5 billion. So people are really, really piling in on the shorts now. We can see here on the 7-day, it's going to be even more than that. We're almost at $10 billion cumulative short liquidation leverage. And if we go to 30-day, yeah, I mean, this is wild. I've never actually seen a number this big. 15.44 billion short liquidation leverage. Now, again, this could be the time that everything is different and the market could have the bottom falling out from under it. I think there are a lot of macroeconomic indicators that could potentially indicate something like that. Obviously, the news that we got out of the economy today, pretty bad, just kind of generally. Tons of layoffs happening kind of all throughout various industries. The economic data coming out of China not looking particularly great. There's this kind of remaining fear around tariffs and trade wars. Obviously, does nothing good for any economy that's in kind of a shaky situation. We obviously have, kind of this recurring inflation issue that won't kind of go away from it within the US. There are a lot of macroeconomic indicators that could indicate that we do see a further move to the downside within crypto. Because again, if people don't have money to spend, they're probably not going to be spending it on risk on assets like things like Bitcoin, altcoins, just crypto generally, right? So that is something that we do need to think about, and that is something that we do need to consider. However, if we do go back to the liquidation map, we can see, we've never seen as skewed of a chart as we do here. If we look going all the way down to 78,000, that's about $1 billion of liquidated leverage. If we go up here to 107K, again, not even hitting all-time highs, which we have seen within the past couple of months, that's $15 billion liquidated. insane amount of money getting liquidated if we kind of return to these levels. Again, even on the 1 day, we can see the exact same thing. Even on the 7 day, we can see the exact same thing. When we see this level of confluence, it almost certainly indicates a move back to the upside. As I said, this time could be different. There are plenty of reasons why. The macroeconomic indicators not looking particularly great. But usually, the market is highly manipulated, and we have seen some things happening recently that I would say are kind of fundamentally bullish for the crypto market if you're not looking at charts. And so, we're going to talk a little bit about that. If we do look and kind of move on, we can see the fear and greed index here sitting now in extreme fear at 25. We did it, right? I mean, I think this happened a lot more dramatically than what I was expecting, but I have been kind of calling for us to dip back into fear for months now. We did finally hit it. We actually did better than that and hit extreme fear. This is something that I was not quite expecting, in complete fairness. I was even starting to doubt my convictions in even hitting fear at all. We dipped into neutral. We'd been in neutral for a really, really long period of time, and we just weren't quite getting into fear. And so I was doubting my convictions, in all fairness, that this would happen. But overall, my kind of initial call, or my initial sense, was right back in December that we would probably see a dip back into fear before we were to see a second leg to the upside. Again, this is just my opinion, but that is kind of, how I was seeing that within the market. Now, if we look, you might say, oh, extreme fear, that seems a little ridiculous. Well, I promise you, it's not. We can see, we were talking about over the past couple of days, the Bollinger Bands were squeezing, right? When they squeeze, that usually does mean a period of volatility. Of course, you never know which side that's going to be. I was thinking it was probably going to be up, just given kind of the bullish things that we have seen develop within the market. Obviously, it did come to the downside very, very dramatically. We have seen it kind of wick up a little bit. We hit as low as about 88,200. We're up here at about 89,900, maybe even coming back above 90 at this point. So this could be kind of like that wick low. We have seen kind of momentary wicks down to these levels before, not actually breaking below 90, but pretty close to this level. So, maybe this is just a short-term wick low. You can see Bitcoin very, very close to oversold. I think it did officially hit oversold on the daily when we were actually down kind of towards the bottom of this wick. We have kind of pulled up a little bit, so that wick is kind of standing okay for now. But again, Bitcoin, when it gets oversold on the daily, is usually a pretty good indicator that we are going to see a kind of a move to the upside. And again, we're seeing a market in extreme fear that realistically is still kind of sitting within this channel. Obviously, you can make the argument that it's kind of possibly in the position of breaking down out of this channel, which, yes, that is true. But I don't usually trust wicks, right? I mean, if we kind of come right back up and we just kind of leave this wick here, this is just going to be a fake out to liquidate a whole bunch of people who are playing the possible breaking of this structure. Again, these markets, in my opinion, are very, very heavily manipulated, so we can't always trust exactly what we see. If you look at this and count that the structure's been broken, I don't know, right? I mean, totally normally what I'm looking for is a break and a close outside of the structure, especially on the daily time frame. So we'll have to see if that does happen. I would say that would give me more confidence that potentially we have seen the structure break. But again, we don't know for sure, right? I mean, these markets are heavily manipulated, and the market makers know ultimately what we're looking at, right? I mean, we know that this is a structure of consolidation. If we break out of it, that's going to be a generally bearish thing for the market. So, maybe we fake a breakdown and then come right back up in. Hard to say for sure. I mean, we can already see from the liquidations, it's already gotten $1 billion today, over $250 million or even more than that. So, I mean, it's been a lot of liquidations here in this past day. And I think a lot of this is because market makers know kind of what the market that they're playing in, and so they're obviously using that to their advantage. So that's just something to think about. We can see obviously we're broken outside of the Bollinger Band here. Again, that usually does not happen and stay that way for long. So we are basically this almost entire candle has been outside of the Bollinger Bands, which is very, very unusual. And we can also see breaking almost down into oversold on RSI. So things on the chart looking really, really bearish overall. But that does mean that we could be looking for a reversal here pretty soon, or it's just a continuation to the downside, right? I mean, anything can happen in this market. I still have my beliefs that this market is not over yet. Obviously, you need to make your own decisions on what you think about that, but that's kind of what I'm thinking here. Now, if you are looking to trade, maybe you're looking to trade some of this volatility, maybe you're looking to DCA, maybe, you're just looking to kind of, maybe you're not even looking to trade right now, and that's okay. But I do have that link in the description below for Phemex. Phemex has a lot of really, really cool and interesting things. One of the main reasons that I kind of agreed to start working with Phemex is because of this trading bot ability that they have. They allow you to make a futures grid, which, if you're not familiar, a futures grid is really, really cool because it will essentially buy highs and lows as the price moves around. So for example, if you had a trading grid that had a low of about 91K and a high of about, let's say, 108K, and you were kind of trading this over the past couple of months, you'd have done very, very well for yourself, because all we've seen is Bitcoin kind of range high to low. And that's what you want to see when you have a grid bot that is kind of trying to trade it within a range. So, this would have been a really, really good position, or a really, really good option for you. I've used these grid trade bots in the past, and they usually cost me between $50 to $100 a month to kind of like pay for the software to run. So the fact that Phemex has this included for free is huge in my opinion. If you are interested, like I said, I've got all the links in the description below. You can go on ahead and kind of check more of that stuff out there. But ultimately, I want to just kind of take a look at the Bitcoin chart. Obviously, things looking a little bit concerning there. Now, the other thing that we can see is this is kind of related to tariffs potentially, right? We have some news from Donald Trump a little bit earlier today. We'll go on and we'll play the clip here, and you can let me know what you think.
We're on time with the tariffs, and it seems like that's moving along very rapidly. We've been mistreated very badly by many countries, not just Canada and Mexico. We've been taken advantage of. We were led by, in some cases, fools, because anybody that would sign documents like they signed, where they were able to take advantage of the American people, like has happened over the last long period of time, except for a little 4-year period that took place 4 years ago. But anybody that would agree to allow this to happen to our country should be ashamed of themselves. No, the tariffs are going forward on time, on schedule. This is an abuse that took place for many, many years. And I'm not even blaming the other countries that did this. I blame our leadership for allowing it to happen. I mean, who can blame them if they made these great deals with the United States, took advantage of the United States on manufacturing, on just about everything, every aspect that you can imagine they took advantage of. I look at some of these agreements, I'd read them at night, and I'd say, who would ever sign a thing like this? So the tariffs will go forward, yes, and we're going to make up a lot of territory. All we want is reciprocal. We want reciprocity. We want to have the same. So if somebody charges us, we charge them. It's very simple, but it'll be very good for our country. Our country will be extremely liquid and rich again. Plus, we're doing other things, as you know. We're finding tremendous waste, fraud, and abuse at levels that nobody thought possible. You're seeing what's...
So I think this is kind of, throwing a little bit of some wrenches into the works here with kind of, the tariff comments and all that type of stuff. I know tariffs have been something that in the past have kind of thrown some turmoil and tumult into crypto. In addition to the liquidations that we've seen recently, in addition to the hack, in addition to like just kind of the general bearish sentiment within the market, there's a lot of, there's a lot of really crazy things that are going on that I think are all kind of negatively impacting crypto. The macroeconomic data, obviously not particularly bullish in the short term either. So with a kind of accumulation of all of these things, I think that's why we've seen kind of such a dramatic dip today. I also do think there is a fair bit of manipulation. And so if we look at this next post, we can see that Michael Saylor bought another 20,000 Bitcoin just today for $2 billion, which is pretty impressive. MicroStrategy now holds 499,000 Bitcoin, almost getting to 500,000 Bitcoin, which is pretty impressive. Now, the thing that's interesting to note about this is Bitcoin dumped after this happened, which is pretty interesting, because I'm not sure how there's $2 billion of buying pressure and then the market just dumps all of a sudden, right? And so that's part of the reason why I think there's a level of manipulation going on here, because how do you have $2 billion enter the market and then not even 12 hours later there's this massive selling pressure and all of these various strong supports and whatnot are getting broken? Doesn't seem to totally add up to me. Now, of course, that there could be something kind of going on behind the scenes that I don't know. But the thing that I would ask you is this, is if you had billions, maybe even trillions of dollars, you are looking at an old currency or an economic system that is teetering. I don't think it's on, imminent collapse, but it's definitely not the strongest it's ever been. And you're looking at this new paradigm that's got a lot of interest, a lot of kind of energy around it. There's a lot of super motivated people. There's a lot of super enthused people that are kind of in this ecosystem. it's very, very clear to see how this thing could get very out of hand very quickly with, various governments and states and things buying it. If you were trying to get in on this and buy something in volume, what would you be looking to do? I mean, if it were me and I had billions or even trillions of dollars at my disposal, I mean, I would be looking to sow as much fear, as much doubt, as much uncertainty as humanly possible into the asset that I'm looking to get into. Because what sense would it make for all of this bullish news to be happening and then me going and say, oh yeah, this is amazing, I'm so bullish, because now everybody else is like, oh my gosh, this guy's got billions and trillions of dollars, he's also bullish, I gotta get in, right? No. I mean, what's going to happen is, if I'm smart, I'm going to go and again, we can debate the ethics of this all day long if we want to, but I'm probably realistically going to be going and being like, yeah, this asset's trash, it's horrible, it's never going to go anywhere, it's basically vaporware, sell it all, it's terrible, macro bad, tariffs bad, hacking bad, all of this type of stuff is going on. But then I go and load up my bags. And then once all my bags are packed and I've bought things at 20, 30, 40, 50, 60% discounts, I'm not like, oh, okay. Yeah, actually, no, this is a good thing. Let's actually go ahead with it. That to me seems like the practical move to make. And so I do doubt a little bit of kind of what we're seeing here with some of these moves, and that they may actually be a little bit kind of manipulated or coordinated. Again, maybe I've gone too far and put my tinfoil hat on now, but I do think it is worth considering here, because that just sounds like it makes good sense to me, right? Like, why would you go and pump the bags that you don't even own yet as you're trying to get into them? That just doesn't make a whole ton of sense. I think there's going to be a lot of coordinated efforts to try and take a lot of this down, sow fear, sow doubt, and kind of get a better entry price. So that's part of the reason why I think we're seeing such a strong move to the downside, even though we are seeing so many fundamentally bullish things happen. One of the things that I'm seeing in my comment section happening a little bit more recently that I'm hoping to clarify a little bit, because ultimately this is not financial advice. You can make your own decisions. This is just my opinion. You can agree with me, you can disagree with me. I frankly don't really care. I'm obviously making my own decisions based off my convictions and my research, a lot of that type of stuff. But what I'm hopefully able to impart on some of you who this may be your first crypto cycle, or maybe you're new to this space overall, is if you understand what you hold and you understand kind of why you're here for the long term, price really is irrelevant in my opinion, because price changes with the weather. Value builds slowly and consistently over time. And so I think it's very important to look at fundamentally what is truly going on here in terms of value accrual. If you see what is going on here in terms of value accrual, then price doesn't really matter, right? We're $10,000 a Bitcoin down from where we were 6 weeks ago. Solana is down like 50% from where it was like 6 weeks ago. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? I don't know. Is Solana undervalued? Maybe. Was Solana overvalued back then? Maybe. Maybe it's a combination of both, right? Maybe Solana is still overvalued. It's hard to say for sure. I'm using Solana as a good example just because it's seen such massive volatility recently, but this can be applied to literally anything in crypto. And so I think you just need to think about that. Of price, in my opinion, I don't really care about what price does in the short term, because I'm buying something for the long term. I know that I'm not going to hit the Pico tops. I know I'm not going to hit the Pico bottoms. I'm focused on an investment that makes sense and will continue to accrue value over long periods of time. And I think given what we are seeing within the macro market, again, if the market collapses and we see another depression and countries have to turn on their money printers, again, what is that doing? It's going to be forcing inflation. It's going to be potentially forcing hyperinflation. All that just speeds along a new monetary or financial system. Enter Bitcoin potentially, right? So maybe in the short term, Bitcoin price gets just absolutely crushed. But as people are looking for a new monetary system that can't be gamed, can't be manipulated, a lot of that type of stuff, maybe that's when people kind of come back and look toward Bitcoin. And I think, as we can see kind of from this post here, I think it's very, very clear what Michael Saylor's thoughts are on the matter. So obviously now it's up to you to kind of make your own decisions. Do what you think feels right. Obviously, I am not at all using money I cannot afford to lose. Obviously, I have convictions in on this, but I'm still being intelligent about it, right? Like, I'm not, adding a second, third, fourth mortgage on my house to go buy some Bitcoin. maybe if it played out well for me, I'll look like an idiot right now. But if it doesn't, I'm still keeping myself and my family safe. And that's not, that's something that also has a value to it as well. So anyway, hopefully you found the information in this video useful. If you did, please do give me a like and a subscribe. It really, really does help me out. Also, any comments, questions, thoughts, I'd love to hear all of them. I know this is a little bit of a tricky time within the market. Ultimately, this is kind of where you figure out what you're made of. If you can't handle it, you can't take it, maybe you sell out and you kind of just, you realize that you're just not cut out for it. And that's totally cool. A lot of crypto trading and just a lot of trading in general is very, very much reliant on your convictions and your ability to be patient and kind of be unwavered when a lot of this crazy stuff happens. So, if you have any questions, comments, things that you feel like would be valuable, please just drop those in the comment section. I love kind of reading and responding to all the comments that you guys leave. They're super, super helpful. So anyway, thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.